Hey, I'm Jusko from ProudMoney.com. In this video, we are going to look at the best Chase credit cards. Now, Chase is probably the most difficult of the major credit card issuers to simply take their cards and rank them because, first off, each card has sort of a different audience that they are targeting, but then you also have things like the Chase 524 rule, which we will talk about, the Chase Trifecta, potentially, which we will talk about, and then you have the Chase co-brand cards that come from some of the biggest travel companies out there on the market, as well as Amazon. So there's a lot to consider when you're thinking about getting a Chase card. So we're going to kind of rank them, but we're also going to talk about who they're best for and what your overall strategy might be with Chase. All right, so let's dive in. The card that we're going to put at the top of the list, the Chase Freedom Unlimited. This is the card that I think has the widest appeal to the most number of people. Now, for some people, this card might be a little redundant with other things that you have in your wallet, and maybe you won't put it number one, but I think it has the widest appeal. So the Chase Freedom Unlimited, no annual fee. You're getting 3 points per dollar or 3% cash back on dining purchases, 3 points per dollar or 3% cash back on drugstore purchases, 1.5% cash back on anything else. The only other place where you get an enhanced reward, 5% cash back or 5 points per dollar when you book travel with this card through Chase's Ultimate Rewards portal, which essentially is like an Expedia type experience where you can book flights and hotels, car rentals, all that kind of stuff. There is a bonus opportunity for new card holders on this card that is going to be different depending on where you see the offer. Sometimes it's going to be $200 if you spend $500 in the first few months with the card. Sometimes it might be a doubling of your first year's rewards as the bonus, so it depends on where you see the offer, but usually something that is going to be fairly generous for a no annual fee card. Now, there's nothing that's necessarily going to knock you out about the Chase Freedom Unlimited, but it's got solid cashback or solid points categories going on here, and it is a card that you can either use as a standalone where you'd feel pretty good about using it for any of your purchases across the board, or you might use it as part of a larger strategy with other Chase credit cards, which we will talk about. Number 2 on the list, the Chase Freedom Flex. This is a card that I would say is not necessarily a card that you would hold if you were going to hold just one card in your wallet, but it is a card that would be a great complement to almost any other credit card setup that you might have. So the Chase Freedom Flex, no annual fee. It gives you 5 points per dollar or 5% cash back on certain purchasing categories that change each calendar quarter. So every 3 months, there's going to be new categories where you can earn 5% cash back. Now, that means you as a cardholder, you got to stay on top of what those categories are, because what you are seeing January through March is not what you are seeing April through June, etc. So they're going to change every 3 months, but 5% is very generous. In addition, you're getting 3% back on dining, 3% back at drugstores, 5% back when you book travel through Chase's Ultimate Rewards travel portal, and then 1% back on all of your other purchases. So where the Chase Freedom Unlimited gives you the 1.5% back on all other purchases, but doesn't have those 5% rotating categories, the Chase Freedom Flex gives you the 5% rotating categories, but it only gives you 1% cash back or 1 point per dollar on all of your other purchases that don't fall into that dining, drugstores, or Chase travel portal purchases. So those are kind of the difference between those two cards. The bonus on the Chase Freedom Flex going to be somewhat similar usually to what is on the Chase Freedom Unlimited. Oftentimes it's going to be $200 if you spend $500 in the first few months of having it. So because the Chase Freedom Flex is only giving you 1% cash back on most of your purchases with the card, it's a card that I don't like as much as an everyday credit card if you're only holding one card. However, it is a great complementary card to whatever else you might have because of those 5% rotating categories. Number 3 on this list, the Chase Sapphire Preferred. Now, I rank it third here among these Chase cards, but oftentimes when I talk about this card, I would actually say that it might be the best card on the market as sort of a beginner travel card. If you were someone getting into travel cards for the first time, you weren't quite sure exactly what you want some flexibility on how to use your points, this is a great place to start. So the Chase Sapphire Preferred, $95 annual fee. You're going to get 3 points per dollar on dining purchases, 3 points per dollar on online grocery purchases, 3 points per dollar on select streaming services, 5 points per dollar through that Chase Ultimate Rewards travel portal, 1 point per dollar everywhere else. There is a $50 hotel credit once per year, so you book with the card, you book your hotel with the card, and then you would get a $50 hotel credit on that. A bonus opportunity on this card, much bigger than the ones we have talked about as I make this video, 60,000 points if you spend at least $4,000 with the card in the first 3 months. Those 60,000 points points at a minimum could be worth $600 cash back, but because this is sort of geared to be more of a travel card, we're going to think of those points as being worth more like $750 worth of travel, or maybe even more. Now, on the face of it, the rewards you earn on the Chase Sapphire Preferred might seem a little modest for a card with a $95 annual fee, but this is a card that allows you to unlock extra value when you redeem your points versus the cards we have just talked about. So all of these Chase cards are going to earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points, but the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Flex, they are not going to allow you to redeem them in as many ways, in particular for travel. So with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, you can take your points and you can redeem them for cash back, the same as you would with the other cards, but that's only going to be at a penny per point. If you redeem them through Chase's Ultimate Rewards portal, though, they're going to give you a 25% boost on the value of those points. So when we look at that bonus of 60,000 points, for example, if you cash it out, it'd be $600, but if you used it through the portal, it would be worth $750 worth of travel. And then the same thing on those everyday rewards. If we're talking about 3 points per dollar, when you use those points through the portal, they would then increase in value to 3.75% in terms of what you're getting back per dollar. So that is something to look at, obviously, and see extra value there. The second thing is you get access then to Chase's Travel Transfer Partners, where you can take the points you earn on this card and you can actually move them into the frequent flyer or hotel rewards program of one of Chase's partners. A lot of big names here like Southwest, like United, like Hyatt, like Marriott. So a lot of good places where you could take your points and get them into a frequent flyer or hotel program where maybe you're already earning points to augment your travel, or maybe if you see a great deal, you'd have the ability to use your points that way. So you get a lot of flexibility with this card and a lot of extra value. Now, I just said that the Chase Freedom Unlimited and the Chase Freedom Flex, the two no annual fee cards that I talked about first, did not give you access to extra value through the travel portal when you redeem, and it didn't give you access to Chase's Travel Transfer Partners, and that's true, except if you have the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which we will talk about next, you actually can pool your points between multiple Chase cards and use those points through the portal or with the Travel Transfer Partners, and you can get that extra 25% through the portal. So all of a sudden, if you have the Chase Sapphire Preferred and or the Chase Freedom Unlimited or the Chase Freedom Flex, you can take those points you earn over there, bring them into your Chase Sapphire Preferred account, and get the 25% extra on all of those points, or use them with the Travel Transfer Partners. So when you think about that, it's a little bit of an extra superpower with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, because all of a sudden, if we're thinking of something like the Chase Freedom Flex, for instance, with its 5% rotating categories, you're already getting 5 points per dollar on those. We'll bring those into the Chase Sapphire Preferred and use them through the portal. Now you're going to get an extra 25% on top of those 5 points, so it's like 6.25 points per dollar you would end up getting on those purchases, or 6.25% in travel per dollar, which is pretty nice. So that is a thing that many people like to do. They like to have the multiple Chase cards. You may have heard in the past of the words the Chase Trifecta, and that is when you actually carry 3 Chase cards in order to do exactly what I just outlined, to pool all your points and to use them through the Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which we'll talk about, and get that extra value or access to those Travel Transfer Partners. Now, the last card of the big four, as I think of them with Chase, is the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Now, this card has a $550 annual fee, which might scare you, and that's why I put it last. However, it might excite you when you see that some of the superpowers of the Chase Sapphire Preferred get magnified even further with the Chase Sapphire Reserve. So you've got that $550 annual fee, but right off the bat, you have a $300 annual travel credit. So when you book travel using the Chase Sapphire Reserve, the first $300 is going to get credited back to you each year, which on a $550 annual fee card, take away $300, now you're looking at more like a $250 effective annual fee when you look at the rest of the rewards and benefits with this card. In terms of the everyday points that you can earn, you're getting 3 points per dollar on dining purchases, you're getting 3 points per dollar on travel purchases, after that first $300 that you got as the travel credit. You will get 5 points per dollar on flights that are booked through the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal, but you'll get 10 points per dollar for hotels and car rentals that are booked through the portal. There is also a 10 points per dollar reward on Chase dining when you book certain restaurants through the Chase dining portal. Then you get 1 point per dollar everywhere else. Same bonus on this card, at least as I make this video, as there was on the Chase Sapphire Preferred, 60,000 points if you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months of having it, but those points could be worth more with this card, which we'll talk about in a second. And then the other two key points with the Chase Sapphire Reserve in terms of calculating its value. Number one is going to be access to airport lounges through the Priority Pass Select network, which means you get free access to a ton of airport lounges around the country and around the world. And then second is the fact that when you redeem your points with the Chase Sapphire Reserve or through the Chase Sapphire Reserve account, you can actually get a 50% boost on the value of those points when you book through the Chase Ultimate Rewards portal. So that 60,000 point bonus I mentioned through the portal would end up being $900 worth of travel when you book in that manner. And then again, as I said earlier, you can pool points between other cards with this one. So again, something like the Chase Freedom Unlimited or the Chase Freedom Flex, you take those points from one of those cards, link them up with the Chase Sapphire Reserve points, and you're going to get an extra 50% on them. So 5% in those rotating categories. On the Flex, for example, going to be worth 7.5 points per dollar, or 7.5% when they are redeemed for travel through that portal. So a pretty nice deal on this card if you can make that $550 annual fee work, if you travel enough, if you are going to find the airport lounges to be something that are valuable to you, if you spend enough where you're going to be able to do a decent number of redemptions. And then both the Chase Sapphire Reserve and the Chase Sapphire Preferred have a number of other travel protections and travel insurances on them that people that do travel often find value with as well. So those are the big 4 consumer credit cards from Chase. Hopefully you can see the appeal of getting potentially one of the Chase Sapphire cards and pooling points with the Chase Freedom Unlimited, the Chase Freedom Flex, perhaps getting 3 Chase cards and having that Chase Trifecta. If that is something that appeals to you, now you should know about the Chase 524 rule, because you may want to prioritize getting Chase cards over credit cards from other issuers depending on how often you get credit cards. So the Chase 524 rule says that if you have gotten 5 or more credit cards in the last 24 months, Chase is not going to approve you for a new credit card. So they do not want to be giving credit cards to people that are getting a ton of other credit cards. So if you've already gotten 5, Chase is not going to be your 6th. So that is something that you might want to consider if you're hoping to get one of the Chase Sapphire cards and the Freedom Unlimited and the Freedom Flex. If you're getting cards on a regular basis, well then you may want to prioritize Chase. And while we're on the subject of 524, I should also mention that Chase has a lot of good co-brand cards with Southwest Airlines, United Airlines, Hyatt, Marriott, and others as well that you may be interested in. And so if you're thinking you want one of those cards from one of their co-brand partners, those are going to fit into that 524 rule as well. So if you're thinking I might get the Chase Trifecta, but I'd also like Southwest and I'd also like United, well then you are going to have a lot of cards from Chase that you might be interested in, and you have to decide how you're going to play that. And then as a second addendum to that 524 rule, we should talk about Chase's small business credit cards, because these cards also earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points, and the points that you earn on these small business cards can be combined with the points from one or more of the consumer cards, and the Chase small business credit cards do not count toward that 524 rule. So if you've gotten a Chase business credit card, it is not going to be one of those that's sort of counted against you in that rule. So you have something like the Chase Inc. Business Preferred card that has a $95 annual fee, and it's got more business focused rewards, and it has a 25% extra boost when you redeem through the Chase travel portal. it's sort of like the Chase Sapphire Preferred, but geared toward business. So you might choose, if you're a small business owner, to get that card and have it be sort of the linchpin in your larger Chase strategy, or you might want to get one of the other Chase small business cards as something maybe instead of one of the Chase Freedom cards if you're choosing to go with the Chase Sapphire Preferred or Reserve, and you have that fact that it's not going to count against you when it comes to 524. And then finally, in the spirit of being comprehensive when it comes to Chase's credit card lineup, I should talk about two other cards. The Chase Freedom Student Card is an okay college student credit card. I think there are other better student credit cards from other issuers out there. There's also the Chase Slate Edge, which is a card geared sort of toward people that are new to credit cards. It doesn't have any rewards, but it has no annual fee, and it has a 0% offer on new purchases and balance transfers for 18 months. So it's a decent card to get if you think you might carry a balance in the short term and want to do so at a 0% rate, but neither one of these cards is going to get you excited like the other Chase cards we've talked about. So we got a little into the weeds there, geeked out a little bit on some of the many aspects of the Chase program and the strategy that you might use. But for some people, you might just want one of those simple no annual fee cards and be done with it. I would love to hear your thoughts or your questions about all of this in that comment section below. Otherwise, I thank you for watching. And as always, please go to proudmoney.com where we do credit card reviews. We talk personal finance, we talk deals, and all sorts of other fun stuff too. If you're not going to leave a comment or you're not going to go to the website, what you should do now is watch this video.